John Gooden, UFC commentator, UFC broadcaster, and just more generally, I presume, an avid fight fan who is, like me, looking forward to this March 19th London card. John, great to sit down and chat. How are things with you today?
That's all I am, just an avid fight fan. No, I prefer it that way as well, right? Yeah, and March 19th, I'm going to say can't come soon enough, but at the same time, the realisation is I've now only got a full working week between now and when I go down into London. So that's then like, oh boy, yeah, that's come around a bit quick. From waiting 3 years for it, it now just seems like it's on top of the hill. So yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, look, people kind of forget this, especially some of the American fans who don't have the pains that we have with such limited shows. But we were the UFC London card, Woodley versus Edwards, was the immediate card when the COVID pandemic started. That couldn't have been more tantalising, of course, for Leon Edwards, but just for fight fans more generally. So 3 years away from London, how do you think the atmosphere is going to be in there come Saturday night?
I can only go by a couple of other live events that I've been to since, and it's a little while ago now. It's kind of when we just opened up in the UK. One of them was Arsenal Tottenham, which is always, I'm an Arsenal fan, it's always a big occasion. Of course, it was at the Emirates, which isn't always known as like the most raucous stadium in the land. But even before the football, it was just incredible. Like, people were singing and the atmosphere was just blinding. So I had a really, really good time there. And of course, we got the result, which helps as well. And then I think it was the next week, I went to Bellator London. My teammate was supposed to be fighting. Sadly, that fight didn't happen, but we went to support a couple of other guys. And it was really good in there as well. Despite, no disrespect to Bellator, but it's not the same pacing as a UFC event. When you're in-house at a Bellator event, they got to deal with so many different network partners. But even with that, the crowd kind of kept the same energy levels. So on that evidence, I think it's going to be absolutely fucking madness. And I can't wait. I really can't wait.
I'm going to ask the difficult question straight away, but have you been confirmed on the broadcast booth? And if so, do you know anyone else who is going to be on that lineup this far?
I don't actually know if I have been properly confirmed. I mean, I've been having some details through. Yeah, I think it's pretty. I think I'm pretty much there now, and I know that. I think Bisping said he's coming down. No one's actually told me who I'm working with. I would assume it's Bisping and Felder, but I haven't spoken to either directly about it.
Yeah, of course. Let's get straight into the main event, because I think it's a very interesting main event in terms of where both guys are in their career and kind of the dynamic and how this could play out. Now, first and foremost, I know that you've spent a little bit of time in the lead up to these fights with both Tom Aspinall and more recently Paddy Pimblett. So give us the inside scoop. What have both of them guys been like in training and just more generally in their overall moods?
I think with Tom, I'd noticed going to see him and just him building up gradually, growing in confidence. And then when he got this main event spot, I don't think he could hide his excitement. Yeah. He was genuinely enthusiastic about all aspects. The fact that he's now going to be fighting in front of fans, which, he said to me when we were in an interview, he's like, I didn't get into this to fight in front of no one, just a few people. And, it's like sparring in the gym. I got into this to be in front of the big crowds and feel the energy. And I think just the way that he said it at the time was really poignant for me. And it's a big ask, right? He's young in his UFC career, and now he's got this massive return show on his shoulders. I say that, but I think that it is shared. Although I think Tom's very laser focused on his own career. He's loving the fact that everyone's doing well, and that's all well and good. But he's very much a man of, I've got my family, my kids, my dad, my team, I'm not really thinking about anyone else, truth be told. And I respect the honesty there. Whereas on the other side, and I can talk about Paddy slightly separately, but Molly and Paddy are like, it's like we're going to war together and we're going to be feeding off of one another and this, that, and the other. So it was quite different. And if anyone was on the Twitter Spaces I did with Tom, Paddy, Molly, Arnold came on as well. So, and it was, yeah, there were just difference of approach from all of these characters, and I find that kind of stuff fascinating. In the gym, I think Tom looks phenomenal. I've never seen a man of his size move the way that he does. Yeah. I'm always surprised when I go there and see how well he moves and what he's doing, you know, putting stuff together. It just blows my mind. It really does. He just fights like he's in a different weight class to the size that he is. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited for him and the fans, right, to see what they've been cooking up. They've been doing things that they haven't done before at Cowbon and Tom individually, which hopefully will help him get through fight camp a little bit better and then obviously get big results. And then flowing on to Paddy, first time I've been up to Next Generation, which is crazy given the relationship that Cage Warriors and the UFC have had with folk from that gym, but it's just never transpired that I've gone over there. So it was really cool for me to go through those doors and see how they do it, the multiple levels that they got there, the different fighters that were on the mat, the real kind of family environment that I feel like they try to or have created over at Next Gen. And Paddy's just golden, right? Yes. He's just so good on the mic and it doesn't change. That's one thing.
I wanted to bring this up, John, sorry to interrupt, but this is something about Paddy that I think people misunderstand. People presume that Paddy has got a Colby Covington-like persona that he can portray. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you'll agree. Paddy is the same person off camera as he is on camera to a T. Yeah. He doesn't change. You could almost have being in the room with Paddy is almost like being on FaceTime in the sense of it's just a conversation between you and him. He does not, no airs and graces. He doesn't put anything on, for effect. He is just Paddy the Baddy.
Yeah, unapologetically himself, and he comes across quite bright. There are certain things where he just he lets loose a little bit, and I'm not sure. I think that's the youth in us, or maybe that's just me and my old age. And I've made so many mistakes over the years through what I've said, and the people that I've offended, perhaps that I'm slightly damaged goods as a result. But Paddy just kind of gets on with it, says what he says, and does what he does. But it was very cool for me to work with someone like that, where you don't feel like any of the cameras or any of that occasion is gonna not allow me to get the very best out of them, which allows the fans to see their true character, etc. So it was very natural. And again, I'm very grateful that these guys let me kind of get a little bit closer to their work, and then I can sit down and badger them, ask them all the kinds of questions. It's pretty good. Tom especially I've got to give thanks to, because I've been up to see him probably 3 times since the middle of December now. So I think he's sick of seeing my long face.
I did want to mention about Tom, and specifically the Volkov fight, and I think this is something that's kind of getting lost in translation a little bit. I got the pleasure of speaking to Tom last February prior to the Arlovsky fight, and one thing that came up in our conversation is he kind of predicted that as he rises the heavyweight ranks, the attendance in arenas will kind of increase gradually. So by the time he gets to a heavyweight title fight, we could be back at full arenas. But that hasn't been the case. He's had an empty arena against Arlovsky, an empty arena against Spivak, and now a full arena against Volkov. And he has kind of talked quite a lot about how he wants to take things slow, but all of a sudden he's now in this main event spot. Do you, from your understanding and spending time with Tom, do you envisage the possibility that the occasion could be too much for him?
I don't think so now. No, because I think that he realises the opportunity in front of him. And what's the alternative? What would you actually prefer to do? And I think when you consider it like that, he's he's sort of had enough of fighting without fans, and he's taken the positives, and it was a slower introduction to what that energy might be like. But I also think that Tom's the kind of guy he's not up and down. He's quite level-headed. He's your big fella next door who just so happens to be an elite athlete, and one that could take your life with the swipe of the back of his hand. And I really love that about him. I've ended up through this process forming a friendship with his dad as well. So I think what they're doing as a family unit, I met his boys and things like that. So it's interesting to see Tom as the very humble guy from up north, and I say that respectfully, because I think sometimes down south here we can be quite aloof and everyone's super busy, but he's always wanting to engage. It's hard sometimes interviewing Tom when I'm not supposed to be present in that interview. I'm not known that you've got an interviewer there, because he actually just wants to he wants to have a conversation. He wants to know your opinion of certain things as well. So I think because he's not like this, I think he's going to deal with it pretty well, but I think he'll also enjoy it, and it will certainly make him perform. The senses will be heightened in there for damn sure.
Yeah. Tom was originally matched up against Shamil Abdurakhimov for this card, and I kind of presume that perhaps with some complications as to who was going to be the main event, he's now been bumped up to the Volkov fight into the main event slot. I guess when you look at Tom's prior competition, and specifically in the UFC, how big of a step up is the Volkov fight, in your opinion?
I think it is obviously a step up, and Volkov's resume is far more accomplished than Shamil's, but they're big men. One likes to wrestle more, one likes to strike more. It's something that I overcomplicate when I look at these things, and I guess that's maybe because I sort of have to look for the nuances to maybe hype the fight in an honest way, but just pull apart those little bits and pieces that make up the picture. But I think it's a fist fight, and they're big men. They can both hit hard, and then Tom's really, I think, just trying to focus on what he can deliver. The range is a problem that he'll overcome, and he's working on it. He's got a bag in the gym, and it's got they've actually measured Volkov's chin and they've taped it up, and he broke that bag when I was there. Funnily enough, he broke it off the chains. We got that on camera too. So he's really pushing himself, and I think they're doing the best that they can to get him ready.
100%. I want to very quickly, before we carry on through the rest of this card, just have a little conversation about yourself. And this is a question that I've had the pleasure of asking a lot of combat sports journalists or broadcasters, and I'm interested to get your thoughts. What was the first moment in your combat sports media or broadcasting career, John, that you can say hand on heart you were truly proud of?
Proud of? I think the Safe MMA initiative was something that we were all collectively very proud of. A lot of stuff in the background had to happen. And for those that don't know about Safe MMA, we're going back a long time now, but we were trying to establish like a minimum requirement for safety. And it was people with much more influence than me and knowledge of the game had decided that really the only way to do that was to get promotions to work together. And these are promotions that were typically competing against one another and didn't always have the best of relationships. And we got those guys together, and we kind of were down at Harley Street trying to work out, what's the bare minimum here? How can we get this done? We were pulling people from outside of the sport into our sport to help us along. And there were a lot of things that happened, a lot of people that were volunteering their time collectively to make that work. So I think that was a very proud moment, just because I consider myself a member of the mixed martial arts community, a stakeholder in that now and before, but now earn my living this way, and I want to see the sport grow and do it safely, do it legitimately, try and weed out some of those that are pulling the sport down as well. So that was a very proud moment for me. And then of course, being the very first English voice on a UFC broadcast is something that you'll never be able to take away from me. Like me or loathe me, I was the first. So yeah, that hopefully now, you never know, that might open doors down the line for other people from this great nation to become part of the UFC production team as well.
Yeah, of course. When you are on the commentary, on the broadcast, you have one of the most pleasurable seats in the arena. I guess what I want to ask is, from your opinion, how much can you kind of enjoy the event and enjoy the action and the fight, because you are on the job, if you like, you are working at that moment, but yet it's such a event and such a kind of intimate relationship that you have with the game. How much can you enjoy, let's say, a one-punch KO in the moment when you're on the broadcast booth?
Yeah, I think there's a what's the word, like a subconscious enjoyment level for it. Like, of course, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else when those fights are going on. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than in that seat. And it's been killing me that I've been away for so long. It really has. It's been 14 months since I've called a fight now.
Wow.
3 years away from the UFC. Called a fight live.
What was the last one? What was the last one? Was it Holloway Keita?
No, I wasn't on that one. So it was Magny Chiesa was the last one that I did. But it was I think that was the same Fight Island trip.
It was the Wednesday night, if memory serves.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a midweeker. So I've been doing a couple of bits backstage and on the desk, but yeah, it's been a minute. So when you're there, I don't get a break. Like, I think one of my Fight Island jaunts, I was 9 hours live on the microphone, like no breaks. Like 9 hours is a phenomenal effort. And there's no one else in sports broadcasting that is doing the job that we're doing in the UFC. Like, if someone thinks differently, please come and tell me, and I'd like to know who is handling a sport with so many variables that changes, because you don't know whether it's going to last 7 seconds or 15, 25 minutes, and things swap around. So you've got to be engaged the whole time. And I'm sort of driving the ship because, well, I've got the producers and the director behind me, of course, but as a unit, we're dictating where it goes. And if I fluff my lines, that sends us off down the wrong channel. So yeah, you've got to be on it, and you've got to be with it, but you can't help but enjoy what's in front of you, right? The passion is there. It's burning away in the background, and the knowledge of everything, and having spoken to everyone in the lead up to it, watch their fights. I see myself as the mouthpiece for these fighters, a bit of a conduit as well. So yeah, I still enjoy it, but it is, I don't remember anything. I remember absolutely nothing.
Oh,
so when we come, no, it's really weird. I've got I don't have the best memory anyway, which slightly concerns me. But I'll come off a broadcast and they're like, if you were to ask me how everyone had won and by what way, I honestly wouldn't be able to answer you, because we pivot so quickly. I'm like, what happened in that fight? Oh, what? Who? And I remember going up to Volkan Özdemir after he fought. Who did he fight? It was a fight that he lost, and I went up to him and congratulated him on his performance.
Was it have been the Reyes fight in London?
It was the Reyes fight. It was really tight, and I think in the moment I thought, I think I scored that for Volkov. But because there's so many other things going on, I sort of caught myself before saying, well done on your win. And I think it was like great performance or something. And it still kind of held. Yeah. But then I went, I was about, oh shit, no, he didn't win, did he? Oh my God. And again, I hate talking to fighters when they've lost. You know, I'm part of a fight team. I know the pain. So, and especially at that level, yeah, it's a wild ride. It really is.
I can well imagine. Let's touch a little bit on the co-main event, because I think this is just style-wise, and once again where these guys are in their career, is just such a tantalising matchup. So Dan Hooker makes his return to 145, where he'll be facing our man on his 10-fight win streak, Arnold Allen. How, I guess, just from a style matchup, how do you kind of see this fight playing out, and what are you looking for from each guy to try and potentially implement in their game plan?
Yeah, well, I think Hooker will try to use all of his experience and his physical attributes. He's been fighting up at 155. There, you know, those guys hit hard and bring the pressure, especially the kind of people that he's been in there with. So I'm sure that, I mean, he's never going to be overlooking anyone, but I'm probably coming down thinking that he's got some advantages there. Yeah. However, Arnold is a big boy.
Yeah.
He is strong. He has to manage his diet from a long way out. You know, he's been at this game since he was a kid. And he's had some very, very good people from the UK MMA scene helping him along from when he was younger. And of course, then over to TriStar. He's very highly skilled, very heavy-handed. You know, he's a southpaw, which immediately makes him a little bit more tricky. However, you know, Dan Hooker's been there, done that, seen it. The occasion, I think Hooker will probably, he'll lap it up. He's used to the big fights, the big crowds, and people are actually happy to see Dan Hooker, right? Yeah. He's not someone who plays the heel. Everyone in that arena will be cheering for Arnold Allen, but I don't know if they're necessarily going to be booing Dan Hooker. Yeah. So I think it would be quite a nice entrance for both, and I hope so too. So yeah, it's both of the guys just trying to implement their own sort of game, and they're quite tricky. You know, Hooker being long, and it's hard to go back to 145 memories, but well, the memories that I have of Dan Hooker at 145 aren't that positive, truth be told. So yeah, it's a big fight to come down to. Thinking about it now, I'm chewing over it. So I've been thinking about other stuff recently. It's going to be a bit of a big one to step into against Arnold Allen when, you know, your success has been at a weight class above, and it doesn't always translate. But they've made that decision with knowledge, I'm sure. There's some of the smartest guys in the sport down at City Kickboxing. So I'm excited to see how it plays out.
If memory, can you think back and think what the last featherweight fight of Dan Hooker's was? Because the only ones that are coming to mind at the top of my head are Yair Rodriguez and maybe Jason Knight in round about 2016-17. But even so, he's been a lightweight for a good number of years now. When I actually think about it. Yeah,
not off the top of my head, I can't remember. I think I called that Jason Knight fight. I think I was there for it. I just remember. I remember being in the elevator with him, and he'd lost, and I'd looked at him, and he didn't look in a good way. You know, his posture was very negative after that. Of course, you know, he's entitled to feel that way. But the reason I bring that up is because of where he got to after that point, the steps that he made, the progress, the decisions, his application, the effort, all of those things, leaning into his personality, you know, to be heard on the microphone. I think, side notes, I think Dan Hooker is one of the best blokes to listen to describe the fight game in the current crop of active fighters. The guys at Submission Radio had him on a bunch, but there was one particular interview where I was just so blown away by everything that he was talking about, because there's so many things that he's done and gone through, and like with the pandemic in Australia, all of these sorts of things there, and how he's managing it as a family man. I was like, holy shit, this guy really knows how to convey the information and really help fight fans understand what the deal is, because I don't think we all do sometimes, or a lot of the time.
Yeah, that can often be a problem with the casual fans' opinion, is that we kind of dehumanize, not us, the the proverbial we kind of can dehumanize these fighters and forget that they are people with families, with parents, with friends, with all of that. And I think for me, Dan Hooker has always been someone, to be truthful, that I've always would love to have a conversation with, because he's got a very cerebral approach to the game. And he's, you know, you mentioned there about Paddy not being, you know, being a bright lad. Dan Hooker's always come across as very intelligent, specifically on the fight game. But this is a big fight, and I guess what I want to throw back to you is 1-3 in his last 4 up at lightweight. Do you think this kind of move was necessary, or do you think he could have stayed at 155?
Yeah, it depends what you want to do, right? I mean, if you want to stay the course at 155 and try and get back to the title, it's going to be an arduous road. You know what you're up against. That's still there for him. Yeah. If you want to shortcut your way, and let's have a look at the 145 log jam right now. So then you got to see how that's going to play out. But then Hooker and Volkanovski are close, you know. Yeah. So I don't know how that would work in terms of those two fights. I can't imagine that they would. I'm sure I remember that I think they did like a podcast together when they were both over at Tiger Muay Thai back in the day, when Volkanovski, I think, won the trials and was training over there. So thinking about it, that's an interesting move. If Volkanovski keeps his hands on the belt, then he's got to go through him to get there. So maybe he's not thinking that far ahead. He a different look, fresh approach if he can. He obviously thinks he's going to capitalize on some advantages, and he obviously thinks that it's another way where maybe he can maintain motivation to get closer to gold.
Yeah, of course. Let's, for one very final spotlight, let's talk about a guy you referenced earlier very quickly, Paddy The Baddy Pimblett, who what a 2021 that guy had, who already had a massive following, who loses his Instagram account 2 weeks prior to the fight and ends up with nearly 1 million followers after his first round knockout over Vendramini. I guess what I want to ask you, John, is what have you made of Paddy's last 6 or 7 months, where he's become this kind of global superstar?
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be as big as that. I really didn't. And he called it, you know. Yes. He literally said that this is what was going to happen. I knew that Paddy was big in Liverpool, obviously. And I'd seen the Cage Warriors rise. Wasn't working with them at the time. I think Paddy, I was at Cage Warriors when Danny Roberts was representing Next Gen. I think Fishy, I think I commentated on Fishy, but then I'd moved across the cage to the UFC around 2014. So that's when Paddy was really stepping up. But every time I go to events, I'd see him there. He, you know, part of the community. We knew one another. And then with Molly, it's just been interesting seeing him grow. But I never thought that it was going to be like that. And I came over from Cage Warriors. I've seen other fighters come over from Cage Warriors, and there is, for me, a distinct difference between MMA fans and UFC fans.
Yes.
Like, you think at Cage Warriors that you know, it's a European level, and no, when you get to the UFC, from my perspective in particular, it was like a big old leap. Like, it was no easy transition. They're worlds apart, and the fan base completely different. Like, no one knew who the F I was, and they were quite offended by my presence at first. So yeah, I always wonder how people will fare, and I think it takes some time. Usually, once you get the UFC PR vehicle behind you, then you double down on your results. But Paddy made one appearance. No fans, still managed to have his epic walkout pop. Obviously not the way that we've seen down the Echo and what we're about to see at the O2, but he still made it work. He said all the right things. I mean, it blew my mind. I can't believe he got to nigh on 1 million followers on the back of that. I can't, because it was obviously a concussive victory, but it wasn't Joaquin Buckley. Do you know what I mean? It's and I'm not sure he's got 1 million followers. Do you know what I mean? So It's good luck to him, is what I say. Good luck to him. And he's got that Barstool's contract as well. So high five on that. Anyone that's able to make additional coin outside of their fight game, I think that's brilliant. I think a lot can try and learn from him and others like that. Get the rub. You know, I'm all for other fighters finding these additional avenues of revenue.
Yeah.
And having fun as well, right? Because it's not just about turning a coin. He genuinely enjoys that stuff, and yeah, I like to see it.
I use the word when people ask me. I've interviewed Paddy in person twice, which is no massive feat, but it's two more than a lot of people. And when people kind of say to me, "What is Paddy like? Give me an explanation." The word I always use is captivating, because he's one of them people who, when you're in his presence, there's just an aura about him. You know, even I remember being in Next Gen about 2 weeks prior to the Vendramini fight, and he's hiring up the speakers to put when his techno music comes on, he's hiring up the speakers and he's bopping around and he's high-fiving everyone. And I tell you what, one thing about Paddy, he can be quite a controversial figure to some people, like him or loathe him. He has been absolutely excellent with me and given me his time whenever I required it, even prior to the debut. And I know he does a lot of external stuff, so he's just to me, he's a fantastic advocate for the sport. And once again, the word captivating comes to mind when I think of his long blonde locks and his, you know, whatever the song is, Basement Jacks or whatever the song is. I can't quite recall it.
Yeah, well, there's two, right? It goes into Where's Your Head At. So yeah, I echo your thoughts. You know, I went down there as a producer for the UFC, and he was great. You know, whatever we wanted, let's do it. You know, where do you want to go? What time do you want me to be there? Yep, come to my place if you want. Do this, do that. Yeah, just very easygoing. And yeah, it was, as I say. I mean, you can only take people as you find them, right? And I like the fact with the football thing as well. You know, like he's a home and away type football fan. I've got an Arsenal season ticket, but because of our job, you know, we're sports guys, so we're working on the weekends. I rarely get to go, and I'm always a little bit worried about like for me, messing up my voice because I get a little carried away at the football and stuff like that. But then I don't know, watching Paddy do it has made me think, why aren't I at the game? You know, I can do that as well. So yeah, I like it. He's going to hate me saying this, but I find him very British. Do you know what I mean? In our cool essence. You know, he calls himself a Scouser and not much more than that. But, you know, we like to have a laugh. We do like our football. We obviously like a tear up and music and going out. And he kind of embodies all of that. So, yeah, my kind of guy.
Yeah, 100%. Now, we've got a lot of other British names. It would take us nigh on a couple of hours to go through them all in the detail we've gone through with the guys at the top of the bill. But I will kind of throw it back to you and give you one last name. Give me one name.
Don't do that to me.
Don't
you dare do that to me.
What I will do is I will caveat it by saying that no one who watches this can take offence to whoever John picks if it's not them. So, John, we've got a whole host of other people. I will also throw in there to make life a little bit more difficult. The 26th of March card where Lerone Murphy and Marty Casey are on the bill. Who's the guy who, in this period, you're most excited for and, you know, want to see back in?
Well, listen, I can't just give you one. And even if we hadn't just had a little fun with that in the beginning, genuinely, I'm so excited for all of these fighters that they get an opportunity to fight in the UK after not having done so for so long. And I kind of feel bad for like Lerone and Mark that they don't get that opportunity, especially Lerone. Like the kid's like he's missed at Abu Dhabi, and I know that he's building his fan base, but yeah, hopefully they'll take a show to the Northwest where he'll be able to fight. And you know, not that I know anything, but it'd be great if the UFC can come back in the UK later this year. But listen, I've worked on BBC 5 Live with both Jack Shaw and Paul Craig, so I know those guys maybe a little bit more than some of the. I know Nathaniel Wood, Brad Pickett. I've been down to that gym, jumped in on a training session a little while back now, so he's coming back off of hand problems. So that's going to be awesome to see. I met Mohammed Makwan for the first time in December. Had a wonderful day with him. Another guy, super intelligent, just a brilliant self-marketer. But like that's taking away from just how excellent he is as an athlete.
Yes.
So I really, really enjoyed his company, and I'm excited to see his debut. So there's so many, and that whole Molly Paddy thing together, I think, is wholesome and just will breed energy to the whole night. It's hard, man. It's hard to separate any of them, and I think together. And Bisping's coming down, right? Yep. So just having Michael Bisping, Hall of Famer, our champion, coming down, walking out. I want to walk out with him to our broadcast position. I don't know if it will happen that way, but I just want to see the reaction that he gets, you know? So, man, it's going to be so cool. We've waited a long time for this, and I urge the fans as well, not that they're going to need much encouragement, but let's really give it them, right? Let's really let the fighters know how much we've missed them, show them all the love, from the Q&As to the weigh-ins. You know, this is London. It's greatest city in the world, I would say. And we talk about competition for the greatest fans. London, this is your chance.
100%. You very quickly mentioned a man there that I would like to put my final question on, which is Michael Bisping. So Michael Bisping, as we all know, is the only British UFC champion. And at the moment, we currently have 6 Brits in the UFC rankings. Darren Till, Leon Edwards, Paul Craig, Arnold Allen, Joanne Calderwood, and Tom Aspinall. And a whole host of others in the... Oh, can you still hear me, John? Little bit of a technical difficulty there. But, John, you mentioned someone there that you would like to kind of touch on a little bit, and that is Mike Grundy versus Makwan Amirkhani. So give me your take.
Yeah. I mean... you know, Grundy's been such a big part of representing this great nation of ours, you know, did so at the Commonwealth level as well. And I just, for someone that works so bloody hard in all aspects of mixed martial arts, like coaching others to, you know, bringing himself through, I just know it's been a rough road for him. So he did well he certainly did well in his debut, didn't he, in London? So hopefully he gets a similar kind of performance that he's proud of. Amirkhani's no joke, though. He's desperate for a win. Both wrestlers, bragging rights there. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a little bit of a difference from some of the striking battles people are looking forward to. These guys will be like a couple of athletic squirrels, no doubt, scrambling all over the place. So, yeah, I think that's going to be a good fight on the prelims.
Yeah, of course. I think that's the best place for us to end, John. So I just would like to thank you for your time. Thank you for a little bit of insight into some of these guys' camps and your career. And thank you for breaking down what is going to be a fantastic night on the 19th of March.
Yeah, hell of a night. Cannot wait. Hopefully see everyone there.